What's up guys, Readiness Reviews here with you again, and you know I like my Czech firearms. We've went over quite a few here on the channel. This is a rifle that's a little bit curious. It is of course a Czech Vz.24 Mauser, chambered in 8mm Mauser. The Vz.24 is one of the most popular Mauser variants worldwide. The exact lineage of this particular example is a bit questionable. The truth is those origins are still a bit of a mystery to me. So maybe you guys can help me out with that just a little bit. I am certain that there's somebody out there that knows a heck of a lot more about Vz.24s than I do. The main purpose of this video is to shore up some little issues that this rifle has, and I thought it might be fun to do it on cam. I'm about to take this over to the desk for a closer look, but before I do, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoy seeing military surplus firearms videos on YouTube, and to subscribe to the channel for all future surplus firearm content. Now let's see what we're working with. So here is our Czech Vz.24, and marvelous firearms they are. Now those issues I was alluding to that we're going to try to correct in this video are pretty minor. It's just a matter of replacing a couple parts and we should be all squared away. This rifle does have a good bit of deferred maintenance that also needs to be addressed. In all the nooks and crannies, you can tell there's a good layer of dirt and grime, but for the most part, we're looking at a pretty good condition rifle. That takes us up here to the muzzle end, which is where our main problems are. Now, as we can clearly see, the front handguard here is not as it should be. It's kind of poking up, and that's because the little piece of wood that goes underneath the rim of the H-band here is broken off, and we're also missing our H-band retaining spring. The pin part of the spring is actually still in the wood, just the actual spring itself is what's broken off. This rifle does still have the really cool Czech front sight hood, and I know you guys are going to want to see it. So there is our mostly scrubbed crest. That does look like a Czech lion crest to me. We also have a Czech military acceptance stamp. There's the cross sword stamp, 37 for 1937, which will be a date of production. And over here on the other side of the receiver, we also have a little Czech lion. It appears to have been made for the Czech military, on first glance at least. I'll go ahead and let you guys know that this rifle has been counterbored. I'll insert a picture of the bore right here. It is dark, but the rifling is good, and that counterboring, which is very common to this type of rifle, was done to improve accuracy on a rifle that had a muzzle that wasn't so good. The serial number on our bolt does not match that on the receiver, but that's when we start questioning where all has this rifle been in its past. We'll save those discussions until later in the video though. For now, I want to go ahead and get this handguard replaced and that spring fixed, so the rifle will at least be all in one piece. Vz.24s utilize these very annoying spanner heads on their screws, so you need special tools to be able to take these down, like the recoil bolt there. It uses a spanner. The pin in the wrist for holding on the side sling loop, and the stock disc uses a little spanner as well. Other than that, we're pretty much all flathead screws. This spanner screw here definitely has to come off though, because we have to get this barrel band off. Luckily, I think I have just the bit to do so. If you do not have one of these forked spanner bits and you're working on one of these rifles, you can always make one of these with a regular flathead bit and a little bit of grinding or file work. It wasn't cinched down super tight, so I'm able to undo it by hand most of the way. That little bolt goes all the way through to the other side. Now let's take this barrel band off. Well, it looks like we're dealing with a little bit of rust under that, but I think this will just pound home what I've been saying for a couple years now, that is, if you have an old Milsurp rifle and you haven't checked under the wood line, you absolutely need to do so, because these things will literally decay from the inside out. You can see that rust forming in the barrel band there up against the wood. That's the kind of thing that needs to be fixed if these rifles are going to continue to be enjoyed into the future. We've got one little screw here at the end of the rear sight. Take that one out as well. And now we should be able to take this handguard off, because the wooden tab in the front is broken, so there's nothing holding it on the front end. Lift this rear sight, this is under spring tension, and then the handguard is held on by a spring clip that's wrapped around the barrel, and so it takes a good bit of force to loosen that clip up, but there it comes, that pops off, and then you give your handguard a turn to the side so it can clear the rear sight that does not stand all the way up. And there's our handguard. There's that spring clip I was talking about that wraps around the barrel, securing it in place. And man, this thing is dirty. Look at that. We have some kind of mold growing, and there's some dirt and rusty debris along where the handguard meets the stock of the rifle. No kinds of identifying markings or anything, so I have no problem replacing this piece, especially because the end of the wood here is broken off. Well, there's a little chip is blown out. That was one of the last little remnants of that very thin wooden rim that goes underneath the end of the H-band. I do have a fresh replacement handguard that was sold as a VZ24 handguard from Century Arms of all places. This one does have a little marking in it, a marking that I'm not really familiar with, but there it is. It's an M in a square. So if you know what that is, make sure you let me know in the comments. But other than that, these two handguards are virtually identical, except for the end piece here, and we can see that wooden rim that's broken off on the one that we're replacing. External condition wise though, they look very similar, and the color match of the new handguard with my lower stock is almost identical. So I'm very happy with all that, and this was a very inexpensive piece to replace. Jobs always become a bit bigger once you get under the handguard though. This rifle still has cosmoline from where it wasn't cleaned all that great by the previous owner. That mixed with some more of our fungusy mold and lots of dirt. I guess we're gonna need to get our barrel to action all the way out of the wood here to make sure there's not other issues that need to be corrected. That means we're gonna need to take off this H-band. These can be a super pain in the butt. You can even see where someone in the past had a heck of a time trying to get it off themselves. Hopefully they were able to get it off and loosen it up for me. Before I get any tools, let's just tug on it. Oh, look at that, it's coming. Yes. You have no idea how happy I am that just slid right off. Thank you to whoever knocked that off in the past, because I have literally struggled with one of these H-bands for like over an hour before. Now let's get our trigger guard and magazine assembly out of there. Like many other Mausers, the VZ24s have little lock screws that need to be removed first. These kind of screws very commonly get lost over the years. Lost. One more of those. And then we'll change to a bigger bit for the action screws. All of these screws were installed in this rifle very loosely. And once those are out, the magazine and trigger assembly just comes right out. And look at that cosmoline all around the magazine assembly. So that leads me to believe that this rifle was never properly taken down once it was imported by Century Arms. And no one ever took it all the way down and cleaned it like it should have been cleaned. We have more of that mold around the trigger, but we should be able to just pull the stock off now. And there we are. It's dirty and moldy, but I see absolutely no cracks. The recoil bolt looks perfect. All the wood around it looks great. No cracks in the tang. So it seems we have a very solid stock to work with. And here's our barrel to action. I really don't know what that stuff is, but the barrel isn't too terribly dirty. Just needs a good cleaning and that's it. When we have such a small amount of cosmoline like this, it doesn't really justify busting out the chemicals and soaking the rifle and going through all that hassle. We just need to do a little bit of spot cleaning. And I find the best thing for that is actually just your heat gun. So just get in there, hit it with a little heat until we can see everything starting to loosen up and melt. Just like that right there, it'll start changing colors and the cosmoline will start flowing a little bit. And then we just go in with some paper towels or napkins and just wipe all the cosmoline straight off. Very quick and easy. And man, that came out really nice and clean. We'll do the same on our magazine housing. Heat it up and then just wipe it off. And that is perfectly clean. Once we get the cosmoline squared away, it is time to go in with a little ballistol and a toothbrush. This really does a great job of getting any old gunk or residue off. It doesn't smell very good, but ballistol really does a great job of cleaning. I do that a section at a time, get everything scrubbed down with the toothbrush and the ballistol, and then come in with a napkin or cloth or what have you, and then wipe all that up. We can see all the crud coming off there. And underneath that crud, we had a very handsome finish on this barrel. Once I've gone over all the metal surfaces with the ballistol and the toothbrush and get everything nice and clean, I will make sure to spray it down with a nice coat of rim oil before putting it back into the wood to avoid any possible future rust issues. For now, I'm going to get the rest of this cleaned up and then we'll look at getting that new handguard installed. I have my replacement spring here, and I believe I picked this up from Sarco, advertised as being for a VZ24, so hopefully it fits. You can see that little end part of the spring there is still in the stock, and this pin goes straight through to the other side right there. So the first thing we're going to have to do is knock out that old pin. I'm just going to use a little rubber mallet and a punch to do so. And there it is, peeking out just a little bit. I was doing my best to try to keep my finger alongside the wood as I was breaking that free so it didn't blow out wood chunks on the side. That's the kind of thing that you kind of want to pay attention to, because you certainly don't want to damage your otherwise really pretty stock. That's about as far as my punch is going to go. So the rest of this is going to need to be pulled out with a pair of pliers because it's still pretty tight. These channel locks should do the job well enough. And there we are. Gonna put a couple drops of core oil down in that hole just to lube up the entry of our new spring. And with luck, I'll just be able to seat this in by hand, but we'll see. We got most of the way there, but I'm gonna have to finish it up with a couple of taps of the mallet. And that's got us right where we need to be. That was easy enough. I think it's time to get this beauty back together. We got our main action screws back in, and we're finishing up here with our little lock screws. Nice and snug. Finally time for our new handguard. This should go on just as easily as it came off. Lift up that rear sight some, because it's under spring tension. Stick that through, and then rotate it around. You can see the notches in the stock that spring clip fit into. And so you sort of want to adjust that where the spring clip is just over those notches, and then just apply downward pressure until it pops in just like that. And now our handguard is installed. Very flush all the way down, looking really good actually. See if we can get the H-band to go back over. Press our spring and try to slide the H-band back over that. It's really tight, but it's coming. Then that needs a couple taps with the mallet here. Again, just a simple rubber mallet, so no harm done. And that's locked in, back the way it should have been. Now just to reinstall our barrel band and our band screw with its annoying little spanner head. Don't forget the screw just in front of the rear sight. And there we are, fixed up and ready to go. There is one more little issue with this rifle that I'm not going to address in this video. It's fairly minor, but it's one of the reasons that I got this rifle as cheap as I did. I used this as leverage in negotiating, and that's our missing end to our toe piece here. You can tell this happened a really long time ago because it's completely oiled over. There's the edge of the butt plate, which oddly enough has not been bent over all the years. One day I might get me a piece of walnut or whatever and fix that toe piece up, but for now I'm not too worried about it. Between the toe piece and the broken handguard, I was able to talk the seller down a good bit on this rifle, and I think I got it for a pretty decent deal. Now let's get this back over to the couch and we'll pontificate a little bit about this particular rifle's history. Well, I am thoroughly dirty after that little endeavor, but I think it was worth it. Czech helmet, by the way, although quite a bit newer than the rifle. So the date of production on this particular rifle is 1937. So that puts us before German occupation of Czechoslovakia in World War II, which happened in 1938. It has the remnants of what I think is a Czech lion crest. That, along with the Czech military acceptance stamp, would lead me to believe that this rifle was made for the Czech military. That makes sense to me. Now, Czechoslovakia was exporting these firearms all over the place. People were buying contracts. Yugoslavia had a big contract of them, as well as many others prior to World War II. It was a big foreign military hit in that way. I don't know for sure, but it makes the most sense to me that this one was meant for Czech military service. The crest is scrubbed though, so at some point this fell into the hands of someone else. There's no major modifications done to the rifle. Our side sling loop is still intact. There hasn't been any renumbering of the rear sight. The bolt hasn't been blackened like many of the Russian captured CZ-24s were. So I don't think it was used by the Germans, and I don't think it was captured by the Russians. Earlier in the video, I talked about the bolt having a mismatched serial number. Well, the serial number on this bolt gives away a little bit of a hint as to where this rifle might have been in the past. The serial number on the bolt starts with the letter prefix XR. Well, to my knowledge, every Romanian contract VZ-24 that was produced in Czechoslovakia for the Romanians fighting on the Eastern Front during World War II have a two-letter prefix in the serial number ending with an R for Romania. So even though the serial number on the rifle itself doesn't have that XR, the bolt does, and one key little feature of this rifle is that the stock does as well. Now, the original serial number on this stock starts with the prefix BR, but that has a line crossed out through it, and it has been renumbered to match the serial number on the receiver. Now, this is where this becomes very confusing to me. I would have originally thought that this rifle went from the hands of the Czech military to the Romanians by way of the German supply train. Certainly at some point, some armory somewhere decided to counterbore the rifle, and I'm assuming at the same time, that's when our rifle was restocked. They put the rifle in a Romanian contract stock, and perhaps they put a Romanian bolt on the rifle, and that would make sense if it went into Romanian service, which this rifle probably did at some point. My question is, where would it have went in the past that would have crossed out that Romanian serial number on the stock and put the original Czech serial number back on it? At that point, I'm basically stumped. I don't know. I haven't done a extreme amount of research on VZ24s. I'm certainly no expert on VZ24s. I know for a fact there are guys out there that know literally everything there is to know about these rifles. There are huge databases on VZ24s of serial numbers, especially in regards to the Romanian contract rifles. But I have a little bit of a piecemeal rifle here with a couple mismatched parts. And truth is, I don't know where it's been. Did it see service in World War II? There's a really good chance. But who knows? It was imported by Century Arms. I know Century Arms imported a ton of Romanian contract rifles straight from Romania. Did this come in that horde? Maybe. Was it all reworked by Romania and it just so happens at some point they wanted the serial number on the stock to match the serial number on the receiver again? I don't know. If anybody has any information that might lead me to a conclusion, please let me know down in the comments because I'm very curious to find out. This video was a little bit disjointed and jumped around a little bit, I know, but I hope you enjoyed looking at this very cool rifle. I know I enjoyed showing it to you guys. Now that I have the couple little repairs done that needed to be done and it has been properly cleaned, I can't wait to get this rifle out to the range. Be looking for this rifle to make an appearance in a Milsurp Minute at some point in the future. I think it would make a fun one. If you're not aware, those are my bi-weekly 1-minute short videos about Milsurp firearms, which usually include shooting content. That about does it for now. Like I said, I'm sure we'll see this rifle more in the future, and if I do find out more about the history of this rifle, I will be sure to make an update video, and at some point I would like to do a review on the VZ24 as a whole. If that's something you'd like to see, make sure you let me know down in the comments as well. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I truly appreciate each and every viewer out there, and I will catch you in the next video. See you then. Peace.